For more on this, our principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibal is joining us live from New Delhi. Hi Siddhant, good to see you. Now joining us live from where the summit is actually taking place, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi just addressed the summit. Talk to us about the key takeaways of his address.
Well, essentially during his address, he talked about how India has a strong connect with Buddhism. He talked about Gujarat from where he is and how there has been Buddhist imprint. And today's summit basically focuses on how India is the country of origin of Buddhism, but also how India played an important role in spreading of Buddhism. Now, in past few years and months, we have seen India playing a proactive role. Today's summit is a symbol of that, but earlier, just a few weeks ago, we saw how under the SCO leadership, the SCO chairmanship of the grouping, India hosted a Buddhist meeting of all the SCO countries, in which all countries, including China and Pakistan, participated. Earlier, we have seen how the Indian Prime Minister has been taking proactive steps, including going to Sri Lanka and to Nepal on Vesak Day. That is symbolic enough, and all these developments happening at a time when we know that there looks like to be a kind of China trying to take over the leadership, essentially using Tibetan Buddhism. We know that China has been keen to appoint the next Dalai Lama, and this is something that has been dismissed by the office of Dalai Lama. Who will be the next Dalai Lama will be determined by the followers of Dalai Lama and through their own traditional process, and not by the appointment by the Chinese side. So essentially that also plays in the backdrop. One thing is significant, that during this two-day summit, Dalai Lama is also going to address the summit. He's going to address the summit tomorrow, and that will be something that will be closely watched.
Right, Siddhant. Now, like you mentioned, that delegates and monks from various countries are taking part in this two-day summit. We also know that a monk from Mexico is also present in New Delhi. Talk to us about Buddhism in unusual countries in today's time.
Well, what is significant, I have been speaking to a number of monks who are present here since yesterday. Monks have come from places from Brazil, from Mexico, from Australia, which is very surprising to me as well, but it shows that how India essentially is seen as the spiritual homeland of Buddhism, and that is why this comes at a very opportune time. I spoke to a number of these monks, and one thing was common when I had conversation was that they saw India taking this leadership as a welcome step. In fact, they suggested that there should be a Buddhist university that should be supported by the Indian government to propagate the message of Buddhism and Lord Buddha. In fact, Buddha is seen as the soft power of India, something that India has been working on, and today's summit is symbolic of that. What the Indian Prime Minister is saying is a message indeed, and a message that will be closely watched in Beijing as well, because we know that while there is this big tiff between Tibetan Buddhism and China, the entire debate, we know the invasion of Tibet as well is something that is known very well. China cannot claim its hands on Buddhism, primarily because it's an atheist government. This is the Chinese Communist Party, and the Indian government, of course, can play a lead role in that.
Right, Siddhant. Now, what is the mood like right now where you are at the summit, and what can be expected tomorrow? Apart from the fact that the Dalai Lama will be present tomorrow, what else is on the agenda on day 2 of the Global Buddhist Summit?
Well, right now I'm standing just outside the hall where the Indian Prime Minister is addressing, and since the Indian Prime Minister is present there addressing there's a lot of security as well. But one thing I can tell you, that inside the hall there's a lot of buzz, and of course a lot of Buddhist monks from across the world. We will in a short while, when the Prime Minister leaves, these top Buddhist leaders from various countries will be addressing and giving their views about Buddhism and how Buddhism can play an important role at a time when the world is witnessing a number of geopolitical changes, and we have heard that in various interviews as well. Tomorrow as well, we will see a lot of Buddhist leaders from across the countries participating. One thing that has stood out is that there is no participation from China, but there is participation from Taiwan, academics from Taiwan are participating. This is something that will not go unnoticed, but largely lot of presence, almost 30 plus countries are present, and Sanghas or Buddhist leaders are present from almost 133 Sanghas. That is what the organizers have told WION.
Thank you, Siddhant, for sharing your insights with us. We'll, of course, be tracking this very closely on WION. Thanks very much.